Start because we want to see if we can get you to the Purdue game. Okay, what time is the Purdue game, Ryan? Oh, okay, let's go. All right. Okay, I want to call this meeting to order. 247th. That's a lot of meetings. Okay. I'm going to ask Dusty to give us a prayer. Okay, and then we're going to start, just because boiler up at 1, okay?
All right, we're thankful for this place, this building, these people. God, give us wisdom as we continue to represent Federated well into this next 10 years of ministry. We look to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So the first thing is inside your packet, there's really short, the minutes from before. And we usually don't have 2 congregational meetings in a row. Maybe that's the first time in our history. I don't know. But the reason is because we have to approve the slate of officers. You have to vote for me. Actually, you don't even have a choice. Now that I see that. Okay, well, I guess you could abstain. And we need to approve our budget. So that's one of the reasons we're having this. So if you have all read the minutes, do I have a motion to approve them? Thank you. Shelley? Second. Oh, thank you, Lynette. All right. Take a look at the slate of officers on the back, first page, and you can see that Dusty was praying hard because we'd love to have our president-elect, and we're team players. We'd love to have somebody join who would like to be the president. You can talk to me privately, send me an email, text me, okay? But the ones that we're voting on today are the ones in bold. So we have Diane Bird as the treasurer. Thank you. Barb Tyner at large. We have Orlo Shoup, and that is God's blessing. All right. Rita Schultz for term 2 and Gerald Thomas. So if everybody is all right with that, can we all vote and say yay or nay? Yay. Aye? Okay. Any abstaining or no? Okay. All right. Thank you on that one. All right. I'm going to ask Diane to come up, and she's going to talk about the budget. Oh, I wanted to tell you that you have to hand in your blue sheet to get candy, okay? But I handed mine in and I got 3.
All right, well, I hope you've had a chance to glance over the budget. Let me point out a couple of the notable changes for this year coming up. Last year we had 60 pledging units. This year, at this point, we only have 54, but they are still trickling in, and so we'll take any pledge cards that come in. With the pledges that we do have coming in, and I've done some forecasting, I think that we should have actually more pledge income in 2023 than this last year. Most of the other things have remained about the same as far as income. Going to page 2, the trustees on the other staff compensation. It's been a while since we have given the staff a raise. So included with the 2023 budget is a 3% raise for the staff that's been here since before 2022. Those that were hired in 2022 have more recent contracts. So even with that and allowing for a children's ministry director, we still didn't really increase our staff compensation from last year. We went down a bit. Some of that is due to reduction in hours. Joyce and Judy will be working a fewer hours this coming year, and we're trying to make it so that Judy will be here Monday, Friday, and Joyce will be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Joyce intends to work from home on Mondays. Let's see, when we go down to the physical plant, you'll notice we have increases in our utility costs. We also are putting our building maintenance fund at $25,000. With the building aging, there's always those expected and unexpected expenses we want to allow for. Are there any questions on either page 1 or 2 right now? If not, let's go to page 3, which is essentially the old missions board. It's now called the outreach team. That, you will notice, is a substantial reduction in 2023 from this last year. We've done a couple of things. One is, since Better Than a Buck started, last year we had over $12,250 come in. So that is a nice way to target specific organizations in our community that we want to donate to. The support on the page that is still there, we've streamlined it somewhat. So instead of categorizing things to the Baptists or the disciples as far as what goes to seminary, what goes to camps and such, we're just giving them kind of a blanket amount of money, and then they can subdivide that however they choose, wherever they feel they have the most need. We still are quite active in the local and a foreign ministry. Are there any questions on page 3? All right, let's go to page 4, which is we have the fellowship group, who is such an active part, and I think we all like to partake of all their meals and the get-togethers that they host for us. That's very well done. We have a separate marketing and media line item this year, which was a little bit of money taken from the trustees' budget, and now we have a specific marketing and media line item. And I think there has been more emphasis on things like Facebook instead of print media, which seems to be the wave of the future, and that really is fairly inexpensive. So we have that line item as new, and then our, what we used to call Christian Ed or Sunday School, spiritual development is at the bottom there. We did move the VBS to a different line item, or wait a minute, no, VBS is now in this category. And so last year, our total budgeted expenses were $345,000 some dollars. We actually spent less than that. And next year, I allocated a lower amount of expenses due to several things. We lowered the line items on, like I said, the fewer working hours for some of our staff. Some of the expenses for church operations have actually, we don't use the full amount that was there, so I cut those as well. So the end result is that the deficit budget for this next year is a little over $3,000. And I'm anticipating that as these pledge cards roll in, that we might have a balanced budget for this next year, which I think would be terrific. If you don't have any questions today, but you get home and you're going through the budget and you say, I should have asked that, just give me a ring or email or text, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can and answer any questions you have. Any questions right now? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. So the next part that we want to do, and I'm sure you're all here with bated breath, is the sanctuary refresh update. Oh, we're low. Oh, sorry. Okay. Good thing you guys are here. All right. So any questions right away? Any discussion? All right. So can you approve the budget, and all of in favor say aye? Thank you. All right. Okay, now, the sanctuary refresh update. This committee has worked very hard, and you see that there are updates right in the back, and all of us are here, so you can ask us questions afterwards, during, right? But I'm gonna call up my husband. Please be kind to him. Yeah, and he's going to talk about this. He's very calm.
All right, folks. We're going to get ready. I'm just going to get these out so we become proper at some point in time. Can I use that microphone? I'll walk around. It's easier to talk about these changes by me walking around and pointing to issues that we're trying to resolve. At any rate, I'd like to thank the design team. This project started out with a very simple idea of replacing carpet. Has anybody done home remodeling or any remodeling projects? You start with one thing, and it goes on and on and on. So that's where we're at today. We've put a group together, and we've been working since last summer to chew out ideas, throw out things that we might want to consider doing, and moving along and seeing if we can update the sanctuary and update the chancel area, bring us more into a modern age, hopefully attract some new people along the way by having a fresh, beautiful area to worship. And all of this is outlined on a sheet in your packet. And we will be voting on aspects of this in a few weeks' time. But this is the first presentation to the whole congregation. We have talked to the leadership teams and have brought all of these ideas to the leadership team with enthusiasm. In fact, one of the groups came in and half the group was totally against this project. And at the end, everybody was totally for it. So at any rate, so we've got some great ideas that I think people will like and keep our worship space in good stead. So one of the things that we looked at when we're doing carpeting, we've already voted on one of the items, and that is pews. So you're all out in the pews, and in order to put carpeting in, all the pews have to come out. So the idea has been, what do we do when we bring the pews back? And so Orlo, earlier this fall, had some concepts of pews, and so we have, as a congregation, decided as the pews come back, we're going to actually lose a little bit of seating, but you're going to gain space in front of you. No more walking over people's legs and knees as you're getting in and out. Make it much easier for those of us who have gained space over time to move around within there. So that part has already been decided upon. But then as we continued up the ramp, I mean, a lot of times if you look up here, and I was talking to Wayne right before this, and he said, you don't notice the patchwork of carpeting that's up in the top area. It's in pretty bad shape up there. And if you stand up here, you can see different shades of red. And so that part needed it, this part needs it. Well, when the carpet comes out, there's other things that we might consider doing. And one of the things that we're looking at is hearing technologies, whether it's hearing loop or whether we do some other type of technology that will assist people with hearing devices and in getting the messages out, hearing the music and all that kind of stuff. So that was part of it as we're thinking about that. What really has been what I think has been a problem is a lot of people like these modesty panels. And if you come up here and look at this area on this side, for example, in the congregation, you can tell over the years people have taped things to them. What you can't see is the lamination. These are laminated pieces of wood. The lamination is peeling off of them. They have faded in color over time. And we looked into getting them refreshed, but all of the people who do that kind of work look at them and say, no, 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 no. You can't, it's all veneer, so there's not a lot you can do to refresh it. Paint, if you painted it, the tape stuff and all that kind of stuff will eventually show through, so paint isn't an option. So what we've talked about doing is actually potentially taking them all down, opening up the sanctuary, and making it an area that can be multi-purpose used. We also have people that want the panels and like the idea of having those panels up there. So one of the concepts is we create a removable panel so we can take them on and off as needed. So that's an idea that's out there. The other thing that means that these pulpits need to be changed. So what we've talked about that is actually to make portable pulpits. So if we open the sanctuary up, you can move the pulpit to the side. If you want to have a play or a program, you can push the pulpit off to the side, and you can have a nice area for people to be able to do things. I think one of the things I took a picture of, but I don't have a way to project it. I don't know if this morning I came in and the choir was practicing. And the choir stands on these steps. And if you look at where their toes are on the steps and the back of their feet are on the steps, they're almost falling over. And if you talk to some of the choir members who stand on the steps, they say, well, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. Well, Pauline and I visited a church in Cleveland last summer who had just finished their remodeling. Actually, it was a disciples' church where they had the exact configuration as we have. They pulled it all out, and when they put their steps back in, they added an additional 2.5 to 3 inches on each step because they use their steps for the choir. And when the choir stands on the steps, now they have solid footing. So when we pulling the carpet out is a time, if we're going to address that need, we're going to take these stairs and we're going to pull them out a little bit. And the other thing that we've heard people talk about is the width of the steps. It's pretty narrow. Well, this part will disappear on each side, and we're going to widen the steps. That's what we'd like to do. So widen the steps, deepen the steps. The other problem that we have, for those of you who've watched some of our people who have had difficulty walking, is climbing up these stairs. It's narrow, no handrails, so it makes for a difficult time for somebody who has a walker or a cane to try to negotiate these steps on both sides. So we're going to chop it, or that's what we'd like to do. And we're going to put handrails in and make it a more handicap accessible staircase. We're not going as far at this point as putting any kind of lift system in, but we have looked into the possibility of a lift in case somebody with a wheelchair would like to get up to the chancel area. So those are some of the ideas that we've come up with. A lot of times I've seen it in the churches that I've visited and that Pauline has visited where they've done remodels, and this is something I don't like, and it's not even on the table. As I point to the table, a lot of the churches take the table and bring it down here, which I don't like that idea. I sort of like it up there. So that will remain exactly as you see it. The table's going to be right where it's at. And then as we move up, the problems, I don't know, sometimes these are things that once you see them, you can't unsee them. If you look, I point to this area right here, you can see that the speaker cloth is pulled away. And if you come up here, you're going to find out on all sides the speaker cloth has dry rotted. And the dry rot can't be fixed. We have been told by the vendors that it's a fire hazard as is, and so we need to do something about that. So there's a couple concepts that we've looked at, and some of them are cost saving. We are not going to get rid of the lattice in the back. That lattice stays. But one of the choices is to get rid of the lattice on the two sides and put basically sheetrock or drywall up, which gives an area that we could decorate, hang banners. And while I'm not trying to sell this option to you because it's everybody's choice, to me one of the advantages of the drywall is we protect the organ pipes. The organ pipes are up there. We need $200,000 to fix them. We don't have that, and we're not going to necessarily get that. But if some future time that needs to be fixed, the drywall is easy to take off and a new lattice put up. If we take the existing lattice and replace it with that and speaker cloth, then that lattice has to be taken down, rebuilt, and re-put back up again. So it adds to the cost of repairing the organ. If we put sheetrock up there, it's actually a lower cost, and it provides us an opportunity to sort of keep the pipes behind closed doors, so to speak, until we come up with a mechanism to fix it if somebody's going to fix it. So the organ pipes will remain intact. So many of you, I know that one of the times I talked about that is they didn't realize that we do now have an electronic organ, so the pipes are not being used. So they are behind there, and they're behind there, they're behind there, and they're behind there. So that's where the pipes are. So we have identified speaker cloth, we have identified contractors that can do both the entire thing with new lattice and new speaker cloth, and so we have all that taken care of. That moves upstairs to the lighting. So one of the things, those are the same light bulbs that we see in parking lots. They're sodium lights, and they have an orangish tinge to them. And the worst part is it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for them to warm up when you turn them on in the morning. So the main time that really impacts things is at Christmas when you shut all the lights down for candlelight and then you turn the lights back on, they don't come right on. You have to sit there and wait for it to brighten up a little bit. But those lights were installed about 20-some years ago, and while we have scaffolding in here, while we have all this other kind of thing, maybe we should tackle the lighting. And we can do better lighting. I know Mike has issues sometimes with the way the lights are with the online stuff that wasn't even thought of 20 years ago. And so we're hoping that if we do some new lighting and we have some lighting designs, I think, out there where we can tweak where the light's being shown onto and eliminate some of the shadowing and be able to have instant on, instant off, and perhaps even dimming on the lights that one can do. So, they would all be energy efficient LED bulbs. So that leads into the lighting. The other thing that's dear to our butts, changing carpet. What about those seat pads? How many people have a couch in their house that's 40 years old? Well, think of where you're sitting. Those cushions are 40 years old? Well, they're red, and I think when you look at what I'm going to show in a little bit, they don't match either of the carpet styles that we're looking at. So now we're talking about new seat cushions. So it's interesting that we've learned along the way that cushion is rated for how many butt rubs you can get onto it over time. So at any rate, we've been looking at new fabric options that would go in combination with the carpet colors that we're looking at. So I just want to say that there's been a lot of time invested in this by this group, and including others. And so there's paint colors that have yet to been finalized. One of the groups that was shown all this information said, you're not being bold enough in your color scheme. Well, we thought we were being timid enough that everybody would buy into it. We weren't expecting people to say, you need to be a little bit more bold if we're going to do this. Well, we're going to look into that and see what we can do. Again, we're not done. We're still listening. And once we do a vote, we're voting on proceeding with a particular plan. And along the way, things may change because of construction, or color schemes might be a little bit different than you might see. We are working on renderings that you will be able to visualize these concepts. And in fact, if you stay beyond today's meeting, if you want to, we have some initial renderings that you can look at that shows a few of the concepts, but they are not the final rendering, so I just caution you on that. But we do have some visuals that you can take a look at. So in terms of carpeting, one of the concepts, this carpet should look very familiar to you. The carpet of the narthex. And so one of the things that everybody, or we thought would be a nice idea, everybody likes this carpet. I mean, at least from what we've heard out, everybody likes it. So what we want to do is we want to bring this carpet in, and we want to bring that all the way up to the steps. So the whole area here would be continuing what's in the narthex throughout the church. But we didn't like the idea of doing that carpet on the top, so we thought, well, let's have a different carpet choice that matches this carpet choice. Hard to see from a distance. But what we thought about doing is then the steps and the top will be that blue carpeting. And that's what the committee over several meetings has come up with as the best, what we feel are the best options. There was also an idea that we do the church all in one color. And so this color, it's sort of a bluish gray. And if we went with this route, which will be one of the choices, the entire church and the chancel area would all be this bluish gray color. And so those are the two options that we're going to be presented as carpet choices. We have identified, this I don't think is really a choice, but now that we do have new speaker cloth. It's very hard to see from this angle. But we have a new speaker cloth that has some texture in it and a little bit more color, and that will go up behind the lattices. We've looked at a couple of options. Looking at a couple of options on lattice. One of the options is that it will be painted, and that is a lower cost option. Another option would be oak strips and it would be stained. So those are the two options we're looking at with the lattice, and we haven't gone into the details yet. The lower cost option is certainly the painted, and we have some examples of the painted lattice with this particular fabric. The seat cushions, I don't have a sample, but the seat cushions will probably be sort of a navy bluish color. The navy bluish color goes with either carpet selection that we've chosen, and so that's where originally we had more of a beige or more of a light colored cushion, but we were told by some of these groups, no, you've got to do more color. So we're going to add an accent color of blue, which would be the seat cushions, and the seat cushions are all custom done. And they will look very similar to what we have here, and there'll be a custom cushion, and I think the idea is to try to take some of the red cushions and put them upstairs in the balcony where there are no cushions. Let's see, where else am I going on this? So we've got some color options that we're going to work on. New carpeting pre-location. Oh, and yeah, so now as we go down, I talked about a hearing assisted system. Again, we haven't chosen any particular vendor. We're looking at hearing loops. We're looking at modifications to the existing type system that we have. But either way, those systems are going to be a little, need to be paid for, and it depends upon which we feel is going to be the best technology to serve the congregation. Talked about the lights, the sound system. So the sound system is running on amplifiers that are about 35, 40 years old. The speakers are also old, so we're trying to come up with a mechanism to replace the sound system with a better quality sound system, and the amplifiers required to do all that work to do our projections and control our microphones. And of course, we need to paint, all of the walls need painted, whether we do lattice on both sides or drywall on both sides. Everything needs to be painted and coordinated appropriately. And so I think that covers the kinds of things that we're considering doing. I'm hopeful that everybody understands that there's a cost associated with doing all of this. It is not coming out of our operational budget. The cost associated with this will be done through a capital campaign, as well as looking at any kind of reserves that we might have that the trustees might be able to come up with. And we already have some commitments, and without us even announcing anything, of some people who want to be a part of this and are pledging financially to help out with this. So we will be doing a campaign. Once approved, I think what we'll be doing is going to the trustees to get some money to hold us over so we can start. Now, what's going to happen after we start? Well, we're hoping, this is, working with contractors these days is very tenuous. We don't know when we can get them in their schedules. You don't know about materials. We've talked to a number of contractors, the carpeting people, but because of ongoing discussions over time, these were done months ago, so costs are going to change. So we need to finalize all of this, go back to the once approved, we need to go back to our contractors and get their final bids, and then we have to make a choice on which contractors we're going to use and fit it into their schedule. It is our hope that we begin this project sometime in late spring, sometime after Easter, perhaps May, hopefully not into June, but hopefully sometime in May. We anticipate that we're going to be out of the church sanctuary for probably maybe a 6 to 8 week period. We don't know that for sure. We haven't discussed that with the contractors, but that's what we're sort of planning. The idea would be to have service perhaps over in Trimmer Hall. We have enough seats in that area to accommodate everybody. We have the ability to have some cameras in there to continue our online service. And so that's an initial idea. One of the ideas also have been for we've had First Christian come and worship with us. We've also exploring the idea, let's reciprocate. We'll go worship with them for a week. So we're looking at all kinds of ideas on what we can do for Sunday worship during the time of renovation. We are going to hold over the next 2 weeks, both before and after service, there will be at least one design team member available to talk to people about the project if you have individual questions or concerns or comments. If you have ideas on color schemes that you like or don't like, any input you'd like to make on the project, we welcome it. And any one of us on the design team, whether it's during those meetings over the next 2 weeks, or whether it's by email, telephone, in person, however you'd like to communicate with any of us, please do. Even if you think it's a terrible idea, whether you think it's a good idea, we'd like to hear your feedback. So I think that I think that what our overall objective is to provide a modern, beautiful place for us to have our worship service and a place that we all can feel that we have ownership into. And so therefore, in about 3 weeks' time, you are going to look at these document here and you'll see what you'll be voting on. And by then we should have some nice mock-ups and hopefully stimulate discussion amongst yourselves, amongst your friends, on what you like and don't like and what everybody else likes, and we can come to a compromise. But the whole idea is we really want to move forward. We really believe that this is the right time to do this project. We think that it's going to help us build a stronger church in the future. It's going to provide a space that can be multi-purposed for various things. Potentially renting our space out to another congregation who might not like to have this sort of a sanctuary, and provide some income revenue that we might get from another source. So that's part of the issues and what we're trying to move forward to and trying to do. So at this point, I'll take any questions. Quiet group. Where's Bill Griggs when you need it? No questions.
For those people who were worried about the boldness of the color choice, has there been any consideration to a more neutral color choice as you were leaning towards, and then using banners to make it bold, or even curtains?
Talk about, yeah, the idea, I agree with you on the boldness, and it's not necessarily going to be, but one of the ideas that Pauline and I have come up with, because we're doing it to a wall in our house, one of the concerns about drywalling the sides is that it's going to affect the acoustics. It might affect the acoustics in the room. And if you go online, you'll find this really cool websites that have acoustical felt tiles. And you can make these incredible patterns and design your own, and they cut all the felt and it sticks onto the wall. And so that's certainly an option to do something like that. Pauline went to a meeting where they put these interesting things as acoustical tiles on the sides of the wall. So you bring up a very good question. If you look at that wall, it's drywall, it's gonna be pretty blank. So the idea certainly is to add color. We have not we've explored what we can do, but this project doesn't explore, the felting part is actually pretty inexpensive. It's less than $500 to do a space that size, so it's not something that I view as a capital issue. But at any rate, we've thought about that, and I agree with you that it can look pretty plain, but we are planning at least accenting, right? And so while there will be the walls that might be one color, there's going to be accent, like going up the big area might be an accent color. So we're exploring those opportunities, and we welcome, if people have ideas on coloring or what we might do with those side walls, please send us a note or talk to us about it, because we want to include your ideas in this. And I think it would, I think that we think that with those two side walls, because we've talked about that, there's a lot of things that we can do to brighten the church up and make it more exciting and enjoyable and visually appealing than even just the lattice by itself. The lattice by itself is kind of boring. Maybe it looks nice the first time you're here, but after a while you kind of look at it and go, look at that color. Any other comments?
There's a time to listen and there's a time to speak, and I'm going to say my spoken word now. I hope the committee is looking at this doing in a stepwise progression. I really doubt, unless you really can get the funds to do it in total, to strip this place, to get it done in 6 to 8 weeks is going to be pretty tough, unless you really, really know that those funds are there. And I think there's some things that can be done in stepwise progression to do what you're doing to make this maybe more inviting to people. I don't know if anybody's really walked in here and, as my granddad's words were, egads. I don't see anything that just turns people off. I don't know if anybody's had a turn off by comments of people. You mentioned the expense of the piping of the organ, and that some people didn't even know that they were non-functional. So what percentage of our ears really know a difference? Are they worth keeping, really? I think that's a question that really has to be asked, whether in the future they would be put back to use, and would people really know it? So the other thing to keep in mind, yes, things are 40 years old in here, but there's only people in here 2 hours each week. So the number of times that I sit on that pad, they're not deteriorated. Yeah, the color's a little off maybe than what we want, maybe, I don't know. But I really am just gonna say, I appreciate what the committee has done. I think there's some fascinating ideas, but I would be very cautious and make sure you do this in a stepwise fashion.
Thank you. Any other comments, suggestions?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right, well, again, thanks for the committee. Thanks for listening. We do have, if anybody would like to see some rough renderings of some of these ideas, we can bring them out in the back and you can take a look. Again, I caution you that these renderings are initial renderings, and we're hoping within the next week or so that we have more accurate renderings of what we're doing, but at least it gives you a flavor of what things could be or might be if we move forward. So I appreciate everybody's time. I thank you, and I am done with my part of the meeting, I think.
Okay. Thank you all for listening. We really respect all of your feedback and opinions, so if you don't feel comfortable here, feel free to talk to the people on the committee, right? So that's me, myself, Shelley, Mike Gibson, Orlo Shoup, and also Lynette. And I think I said Mike. Mike? Okay. And Mike Gibson upstairs. So we want to hear the things that you would like to see. This is our church, right? And we want to bring it into the future for the next 75 years. So that's really important. It's hard act to follow after that, but I just wanted to tell you about the new business, and we can talk about this. I'll write about it in the bulletin so you can see it. We'd like some ideas. I have some crazy ideas for what we could do for our 75th anniversary and to celebrate, but I'd like to hear your ideas. And in the bulletin, I'm going to put it, 15 years ago, I stood up here and did something for the 60th anniversary, and I have that list. So I'm going to share with you that list in the bulletin, and you can see it and take a look at some of the things we used to do, things that we no longer do, maybe we should think about again. I really entertain some of your ideas for the 75th anniversary, so please help me and the others in this church to see if we can celebrate that. I think that is all. We're easily going to make the Purdue game, but I want to give you a little time to go out and look at those initial renderings and see what you think. And I do caution you, they're initial, and also we'll talk about a capital campaign, the funding, and how we plan to do it. But I want to make sure you understand that this is what they call one and done. This is not part of our operating budget that we just passed for approval, right? And it's not coming from a pot that would go to support a youth minister. We would not be borrowing any money or any funds to do this. We have to raise the funds, and I am confident that we will be able to do that. So, if there are any other questions, feel free to ask any of us. Go back and take a look. Dusty will give us a prayer to close this, and we'll make it home to root for Boilers.
God, you are good. We thank you for these people, for
Amen.